Good evening, everybody. Welcome. We're excited that you're here tonight to talk about AP program. The exam program has changed dramatically. And before I introduce our presenters tonight, I just want to acknowledge a couple of things that aren't so happy news. Not at all. I want to start, obviously, by acknowledging another great tragedy that's occurred in our country, this time in Boulder, Colorado. And these things obviously hurt every time that they occur. And it's obviously incredibly important for us to invest in the lives of the sons and daughters that we, Titans, that we're blessed to have the opportunity to serve in our community and to try to help them see that life is precious, valuable, and full of significance. So our prayers are certainly with the families of the victims who've lost their lives in Colorado. Closer to home, a lot of people have blown up my email in the last hour or so, because we have some students right here in our community who seem to have made some very poor choices and marginalized some of the young women in our school with an Instagram post. I don't know a lot about Instagram, but I know that this is upsetting to many of you. And I want you to know that when our town halls are over this evening, I'll start working on fixing that for us. And I'm very sorry that occurred as well. To our main topic tonight, we want to focus on the administration of advanced placement exams. It's our hope that every student who is currently taking an advanced placement course is going to take the end of course test that's administered by the College Board. It's a nice opportunity for students to potentially set themselves up to earn some college credit, but it also gives us a gauge as a school about how we're doing in terms of supporting our students and their success in being ready for college work. So the College Board, in light of the COVID-19 crisis, has needed to make substantial changes to the way that they administer the tests. They have allowed school divisions who elect to do so to administer these exams in a very traditional paper and pencil format using a very traditional schedule. Loudoun County Public Schools, 17 high schools have weighed in on this matter, and we've agreed that it's important for us to approach this testing window with all the options in mind and select one that all the schools are implementing. So we're not going to dive into the various different options the College Board offered schools and school divisions tonight, because Loudoun County Public Schools is united in selecting what's called by the College Board Option 2. Option 2 is a significant change to the way that we're used to administering these exams. And it changes, for one thing, the time frame in which we have traditionally given these tests. That's probably all good for students because it gives them a little more time to prepare. And secondly, most tests will be able to be administered from the privacy of your home and from the learning device that students use on a day-to-day basis. So that's why we've gathered tonight. I want to remind you that Mrs. Comey has just placed, and many thanks to Mrs. Comey and her son Aiden for hosting us all these times, at least once a month that we've done these town hall meetings. She has placed in the chat question links where to Google Forms that you can use to submit questions throughout our time tonight. Eventually, we're going to get to Q&A. I'm just going to ask that we give Mr. Edwards and Mr. Chuba an opportunity to present the information that they have prepared for us. And if you can, hold your question until we get down the path a little bit. If you are itching to ask it, I recommend that you use the Google form with the bit.ly link that's in the chat right now, as opposed to the chat itself, because as the chat grows, it'll be difficult to monitor. When we get to the Q&A section, the chat will be a little easier for us to monitor and respond to your questions there. So thanks again for joining us. And I'll be quiet now and turn it over to Mr. David Edwards, our Director of School Counseling, and Tom Chuba, our School Test Coordinator.
Thank you, Dr. Brewer. I appreciate that. So we want to talk a little bit about the AP program tonight. Just the absolute basic, often when we look at the AP program, There are two concepts that capture most of our attention, both the curriculum and the exam. Now, the curriculum is college level, and it's created and administered through the College Board. It's generally more rigorous than academic and honors level high school work. Colleges love to see students take AP courses because it shows college readiness. Now, at the end of every AP course is an AP exam. College credit is conferred by performing well on AP exams. We often say that AP exams are high reward, low risk endeavors because doing well on the exam earns college credit. Doing poorly on the exam has little to no consequences. Both the advanced curriculum and the exams create a college level experience. One without the other makes the endeavor much less worthwhile. We are tonight going to spend a lot of our time and focus on the exam. And we don't want to take anything away from the curriculum. I want to talk a little bit about some of the updates that are available and why they were made. Decisions for the 2021 AP exams were made to prioritize the health and safety of educators and students while preserving opportunities for motivated students to earn college credit. College Board gave school districts the opportunity to choose between 3 test administration windows. LCPS decided to use the second window, which occurs in the second half of May. I am going to present you a calendar in just a moment. Now, the 2021 AP exams will be very different than the AP exams that were used last spring. For one, they're going to cover the full course content so that students are accurately placed in higher level courses when they get to college. They're going to be fully timed, which means that many of these tests will be 3 to 4 hours long. And the College Board has created a more stable and user-friendly platform for the digital and testing environment. Lastly, the College Board's developed tools to help students prepare for the exams. In April, the AP Daily will stream live review sessions that can help students review course content and the skills. And the AP Classroom has been open to our students, which offers free on-demand resources to help students practice their skills before the exams. Students will also have an opportunity to practice in the testing platform that the College Board has created. This is the calendar detailing the dates and times of all AP exams. Students are automatically registered for the May dates on this calendar. Many of you may be scrambling to write things down. Don't worry, I'll send this calendar out to all of our AP students, their families, and teachers. The dates in light blue indicate at-home digital exams. The dates in gray indicate in-person paper exams. It's very important that you note that the start time for at-home digital exams is different than the in-person paper exams. The digital exams will be given at home. Most students have been participating in classes digitally from home, and there are advantages to studying and testing in a similar environment. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about these at-home digital exams. Now, some exams are going to be offered on paper within the school. Primarily the calculus, chemistry, physics, and statistics exams will all have an in-person paper administration at the school. This is because educators have told us that oftentimes these curriculums require students to make calculations or symbols that are very difficult to produce using a keyboard. I also want to just note that students will not be asked to make any of these symbols with a keyboard at any time on the exam. Families will also have the choice to take these exams digitally at a later date in June. Also, our world languages, our French, German, Spanish literature, Spanish language, and Latin will all be given in person on paper. College Board cannot maintain security of these exams digitally. They'll need to be given at the school on paper. So I'm just going to spend a moment taking a look at our paper pencil testing. This is what we've done in the past. The exams start at 8 a.m. and then again at 12 p.m. in the afternoon. Students need to arrive 30 minutes prior. So for the morning exam, 7:30, the afternoon exam at 11:30. Transportation is not provided, and it's never been provided for AP exams. We want to assure our parents and our students that we're going to follow the health mitigation strategies that we've been using. So every individual who comes within the school is going to have to complete a questionnaire and get a temperature check. There will be no close contact during the testing conditions. Students will wear a mask while they're testing. I also want to point out that we've been using these strategies all year long for SOL, for PSAT, SAT, and ACT testing. And we've had 0 confirmed or suspected incidents of transmission in the testing environment. One other perk of what the College Board is doing is previously students would have to come in days or weeks prior to the exam to complete answer sheets. Those pre-administration sessions are no longer needed. When students come to the building to test, they'll need a photo ID, an approved calculator, pencils, pens with black or dark blue ink. Students may choose to bring in water or snacks to be used only at times of breaks. Again, this looks very much like the testing environments we've used in the past and the health mitigation strategies we've used all year long. So let's take a closer look at the digital testing environment. Now, we recommend students take their AP exam on their school-issued Chromebook. However, we know that many students may choose to use another device. Students can test on a Windows PC, a Mac, or a school-managed Chromebook. The digital testing environment does not work on a personally owned Chromebook, a cell phone, or tablet. Here you see a list of all the technical requirements that are needed for the exam. I'll be real honest, technical requirements is not my personal area of strength, so I can't go into those, but they are here for your review. Should also know that the application requires 3 megabits of internet bandwidth for student. 3 megabits per second is similar to the amount of bandwidth that we use to do video with our Google Meets. I do want to take just a moment and talk about testing security. A number of security measures are in place to ensure that exams are fair and accurately measuring student ability. These security measures include that while students are in the digital application, students will not be able to return to unanswered questions or move back and forth between sections. Digital AP exams have synchronous start times worldwide and automatically begin at the same time everywhere at 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time or 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. This is very different than paper and pencil exams, which have local start times. The start time for the digital AP exam is controlled by the digital testing application. It cannot be adjusted by students or school staff. The start of the exam itself and the time of the exam resumes after breaks are all synchronous. Exam sections will begin automatically. This application will also prevent the device from accessing any other programs. As far as the content of the test itself, the questions are comprised of original content. They cannot be answered with internet searches, textbooks, notes, study guides, or similar materials. Everything that, all the items will be reviewed with plagiarism detection software, and they'll also be reviewed with post-exam analysis to identify collaboration or use of unauthorized aids. Now, we do anticipate that most of our students will choose to take their digital exams at home. However, we know that we have a number of students who do not have internet bandwidth or a quiet space where they can test uninterrupted for several hours. These students will have the opportunity to test from the school. We may also have students who, on the day of their exam, are taking classes at the school and may not necessarily have transportation back home to take the exam. We're going to ask the families who are concerned or that meet one of these qualifications to please call or email me using the contact information on the screen so we can review your case on a case-by-case basis. There are a couple of steps that you can help so you can be ready for the exam when it's time to take it. This is just an overview of the 4 readiness steps for students. We're going to go through each in detail. So step 1 is to download and install the digital testing application. Starting on April 8th, students can download the digital testing application. LCPS will automatically load this app onto students' school managed Chromebooks. In order to do this, students will need their College Board username and password to log into the digital testing application. The digital testing application installed on the computer they'll use for testing before they can access the digital practice, exam setup, exam check-in, or the exam itself. Now, even if your student is planning on taking the exam in person on paper, we would ask that they download this application in the event that they need to take a makeup exam that's only offered digitally. Step number 2 is College Board is going to put out a practice with sample questions in the digital testing application. So after your student downloads the digital testing application, students can access digital practice for each of their subjects. And there's really 2 ways that students can access this digital practice. They can go through the digital testing application itself, or they can go through MyAP at myap.collegeboard.org. By practicing, they'll be able to answer each type of question they'll encounter on test day and preview the exam day flow. They'll also confirm that the technology works as expected before the exam day. They'll be able to access the responses along with an answer key and scoring guidelines, and they can retake the digital practice as many times as they want. We really do not want students to be surprised with anything on test day. All right, now the exam setup will open 3 calendar days before each and every exam. Students must complete setup no later than the day before the exam for each digital exam that they take. Students can access the exam setup by launching the digital testing application. The student absolutely must complete the exam setup for each exam on the same device that they'll use for testing. Because once a student has completed the exam setup on a testing computer, that computer cannot be shared with another student. Students can access the exam setup by launching the digital testing app that'll be loaded on April 8th and signing into their College Board with their username and password. They should find their exam on My Tests, and they can click the Start Exam Setup button, that big yellow button on the right. The brief exam setup provided a couple of days before each exam will confirm the device the student intends to use on test day, and it will take a certain amount of time to complete. I would set aside 20 to 30 minutes. Students will be asked to confirm personal information, review exam day checklists, to watch a quick video, and to wait for the application to check the device's settings. Okay. The last step is to check into the exam. All students are required to check into their digital exam 30 minutes before the official start time to complete final pre-exam setup. Students will check in on the device they intend to use for the exam. If a student hasn't started the check-in process before the official start time of the exam, the digital testing application will not permit them to test. And the student will need to contact their teacher or myself to request a makeup exam. During the check-in, students will be asked to type in a digital test security statement, review the test day checklist, enter into a secure mode, and wait until the exam begins, paying attention to the timer that counts down to the exam start time. So the College Board has given us a couple of screenshots of what the testing environment is going to look like. And this is a preview of the digital testing environment. You're going to notice a few features. At the top in the middle of the screen, you're going to see a timer. You're going to see reference materials in the top right, a help menu, a zoom in and out, an expand right and expand left arrows. Students can practice all these tools and features beginning on April 8th. If the app crashes or the student exits for any reason, they can relaunch the app. However, the timer will continue to count down. As with the paper and pencil exams, digital exams are full-length exams with section 1, section 2, and a break in between. Each exam timing is universal. It's governed by the College Board through the digital testing application, and the timing is by exam. Most exams have two main types of questions, multiple choice questions and free response questions. If students skip ahead, they will not be able to go back. This is one of our many security features. The digital testing application will remind students that they cannot go back whenever they, one, attempt to move on from their first multiple choice question, or two, attempt to leave a multiple choice question they haven't answered. Also, it'll remind students that they can't go back when they attempt to leave a free response question. Now, just a note, there are some free response questions that have multiple parts that are answered on separate screens. Students will be able to go back and forth between the parts of the question they're answering. However, once they answer the last part of the question and go on to the next question, they cannot go back to the previous question. So this is a preview in the free response questions. Students will type directly into the application. The student work is saved to their device automatically while the exam is running. Students cannot upload any files during testing. They cannot submit any handwritten work. Some free response questions are centered on the screen with the entire question and most of the text box all in one column. But most of the free response questions are going to look like this with the prompt on one side and the text box on the right side. Students who have College Board approved accommodations will automatically receive them in the digital exam. Accommodations are applied in a format that's appropriate for the digital exam. For example, if you have extended time, on a paper exam, the proctor accounts for that extended time. However, digitally, the timer in the testing application automatically allocates additional time for which that student is approved. It's especially important for students with accommodations to get to practice navigating their digital exams so that they're ready on test day. College Board has prepared several resources to help you prepare for the exams. The first is AP Classroom, and AP Classroom has been open since the students started the course. It includes benchmark assessments so students can measure their progress and practice questions. In April, the College Board will push out a digital review sessions for students. These AP review sessions are recorded and available through YouTube. If you go to YouTube now, you'll see many, many lessons have already been uploaded onto YouTube. And lastly, the practice exams, which we've talked about, which are in the application itself. They have real life practice test questions with answer keys and response rubrics to help you be prepared for the testing environment. Again, we really don't want any students to be surprised on exam day. A couple of steps that families can do to help students take the exam is, as a family, a plan for the student to have uninterrupted time to take the exam. They may need to communicate this plan with family members, friends, coaches, employers, neighbors. We know that interruptions were a problem for many test takers last year. Students will not be able to do chores, eat meals, or watch siblings while they're testing. If you don't believe that your student can test uninterrupted for 3 to 4 hours, please contact me so we can make arrangements possibly at the school. It's important to create a testing environment that's helpful for students as they test. Students should have a comfortable chair, a desk, a table. They should be free of distractions. Students should put away notes, books, and any other communication devices. These are not permitted and may serve as a distraction. Just testing 101 good habits, get a good night's sleep the day before. Some students like to stay up all night cramming. It's not a very good idea. Light exercise before the exam helps lower stress and increases blood flow to the brain while they're testing. You also want to eat a light, nutritious meal before you test. There was certainly a lot of information there. I imagine there's a lot of questions. That's what I have prepared for tonight.
So Mr. Edwards and Mr. Chuba, the first two questions that came up during the presentation had to do with the opportunity to go back and forth between questions. And I think the easy answer is for the digital format, wherever you take the test, whether it's at school, whether it's at home, whether it's in Arkansas, wherever it is, a student cannot go back and forth in the digital format. The College Board's testing platform prohibits that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Absolutely.
Then for the tests that are taken on paper, the world language tests exams have to be taken on paper and pencil. Can you confirm that?
Yes, in fact, all the world language tests, except for maybe Japanese and Chinese, but I don't think we're giving those. But all the ones that we are giving are paper pencil, and they're using digital handheld recorders, right, Mr. Edwards? That's what they've chosen to do for the speaking part.
Yeah, I did. Our students are practicing with digital handheld recorders. Some of our teachers have noticed that the testing app has a really nice voice recording feature. So they're going to take a look at that. But whichever way we go, we're going to make sure our students have practiced either the digital handheld recorder or the device recorder, the digital app before the students test.
So the next questions are, so the world language tests are paper and pencil necessarily. Calculus, statistics, physics, and chemistry, if I remember correctly, are optional digital or paper and pencil. Do I have that correct?
In admin number 2, those exams are paper pencil. If a student wants to put off, say, taking the AP chemistry exam until admin 3 for whatever reason, in admin 3, it is only digital.
And LCPS is allowing students to make that choice?
I don't know. Mr. Edwards is shaking his head. Yes, I'm not real clear on what the assessment office is doing with that, but they do know that there will be students who, for whatever reason, doctor's appointment, family thing going on, they're feeling sick that day, that may choose, or maybe they don't want to be in the building due to, COVID issues, that will elect to push it back. The only issue with admin 3 is how it may or may not conflict with graduation. And a lot of the seniors, I believe, are pretty much finished, and they would have to come back and take the exam.
There's no conflict there, because these tests are all administered in the last week of June. Mr. Edwards, would you go back to the calendar there? I might be taking us into the weeds. Sorry about that, but for the sake of clarity, if you could go back to the calendar. That'll help us answer the next couple of questions. And we will make these slides available on the Atlas website for sure tomorrow, so you can review these in greater detail. A lot of thanks to Mrs. Koma, who takes really good care of us there. So on this schedule, you can see that the calculus, physics, statistics, and chemistry exams are available paper and pencil on Monday, the 24th, and Tuesday, the 25th. But LCPS seems to have opened the window for those to be taken digitally on the 9th and 10th of June, which is late for our seniors, true, but still within the time frame that if they chose to take them, then they could. And so the paper and pencil tests, one other question, just to confirm, obviously on the paper and pencil, students can, within a given section on the paper and pencil tests, they can move back and forth from question to question within a given section. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And then the human geography test, there's a question here. Human geography, if I remember correctly, is not a test that can be taken paper and pencil. It's only digital. Is that true?
That's correct. It's only digital. I'm looking at my calendar and I am not seeing it. So let me find that date for our families.
We know for sure it's only digital. It may be on the Schoology Dominion High School calendar. If you would like to know immediately what that date is, it's if you go into Schoology in the top right hand side, there is a Dominion High School icon with a calendar feature, and on that calendar, all the tests, the test schedule is loaded there for everyone in the community to see. But the human geography test is definitely digital.
Yes.
All right. Well, the digital exam software include webcam software to monitor testing environments and student behavior for academic integrity. That may be beyond our knowledge what the College Board is doing in that regard. Mr. Chuber or Mr. Edwards, do you know?
That hasn't come up in the training seminars I've been through, so I don't think College Board is planning to do that, where they're turning on webcams. They seem to feel that the other things they put in place will take care of cheating.
And
nothing.
Go ahead, Mr. Edwards.
Yeah, I'm just going to repeat what Tom said. I haven't seen anything about webcams in any of the security features. They have told us though that they haven't disclosed all of the security features, but I think cameras would be something they would disclose.
Okay, so makeup tests. If students miss the first test, there's typically that has to be for extraordinary circumstances. What do we know about this year? Makeup tests for those who missed them on the originally scheduled day.
I think they can possibly use tests in Admin 3, right, Mr. Edwards? That's one of the thoughts. But if they miss something in Admin 3, then it's a little more problematic. But I do believe College Board is coming up with makeup tests if they're missed in Admin 3.
And my understanding is if a student misses, they need to let us know right away. We need to schedule that exam 7 days before it happens. So for whatever reason, if there's a doctor's appointment, if you become ill, please let me know as soon as you can.
Students often have 2 tests in a day. I don't think we have any tests that we anticipate students are going to have at the same time of day. Typically, if students have 2 tests, that's a long day for them, but they have 2 tests. Is that
right?
Correct?
Right. if they have two in the same day, they're expected to take both in the same day. And if they get hungry, then it's they pretty much have to take care of that in whatever the break time is from the end of one test and the start of the next one. But they can't delay one, they can't separate them for convenience. They have to do them both in the same day.
We have hundreds of students taking the tests, and obviously just a handful of them are in this call. So how will students be trained, receive this information so that they're well prepared to take the tests in May and June?
I believe that's supposed to be done through their AP teachers. The burden of getting the students ready for testing and making sure or double checking that their computers are all set up is supposed to be done by their AP classroom teacher.
And our teachers are very invested in making sure that our students are not surprised on test day. As I walk the hall, the teachers ask me a lot of questions about what the test will look like, how it's going to be formatted, how it's going to be proctored. They care very much about your students and their preparedness for test day. I'm also happy to make these slides available to whoever wants to look at them.
It's not possible for students to have a digital test and a paper test on the same day. The digital tests are scheduled on totally different days than the 4 days where paper tests are offered for world languages, science, and math. The 30-minute pre-check-in, let's say a student has a digital test at noon and then a digital test at 4, and maybe going to be a very tight window to get there 30 minutes for the pre-check-in. Any advice about that, Mr. Edwards or Mr. Chuba?
I would have those students contact us if they run over the window as soon as they possibly can. One thing we know is without the pre-administration, the tests are going to be more along the lines of their published time. Traditionally, when we've had students come in and sit down and take a test, we've sat and we've bubbled for 30 to 40 minutes. Most of that pre-administration has gone away. So tests that in the past have taken 4 to 4.5 hours no longer exist. They can be done in 3 to 3.5 hours easily. I see in the chat, yes, the date and time for the human geography exam is May 28th, and it'll be at noon, 12 p.m. noon. I'll make sure I update the calendar before that goes out.
And I'll make sure it gets in Schoology tonight. Thank you so much. Back to 2 tests on the same day and extra time accommodations. There's a situation where we definitely need your student to reach out to Mr. Chuba and Mr. Edwards, because that probably won't work very well.
I've already reached out to those students and their families and explained the situation, and I think we've resolved those situations for those 2 particular students. But if you feel like I missed your student, please let me know so we can make the appropriate arrangements.
All of the tests in the window that Loudoun County Public Schools has chosen, not all of the tests can be taken on paper. Most of them, as a matter of fact, are only offered digitally. The world languages course exams will be taken on paper. Calculus, statistics, chemistry, and physics may be taken on paper. All the others do need to be taken in a digital format. And the academic integrity provisions, these are really overseen and governed by the College Board. I'm not even sure, Mr. Edwards and Mr. Chuba, that you would be able to articulate exactly how they're doing that, but we made some general comments about that in the presentation. Is there anything more you could share with us about that?
I know that every student is supposed to sign some paperwork through their AP teacher, regarding their conduct and things of that sort while they're testing. They're supposed to sign it and turn it back in, kind of a promise that I'm not going to cheat. But as Mr. Edwards said, the College Board hasn't released everything that they plan to do to monitor the digital testing. We've heard the ones that are out there in public right now, and I guess the rest is that they're depending on the students and the families to help maintain the academic integrity.
And I might just review, we did put up a security slide. There is a plagiarism software that they run things through. That's very powerful. Just about every college uses it. It's very easy to check for plagiarism. They can also run digital statistics that analyze the patterns that students answer questions to find collaboration. I did those statistics in college. They're not that difficult. The College Board has figured it out. We really need to impress upon our test takers that there is no space. They will catch you.
Definitely one of those times when it's not worth the risk of taking shortcuts and doing things the wrong way. And the next question, I'm going to turn to the questions that have been submitted through the Google form. But can students choose to take one test in the Admin 2 phase and one test in the Admin 3 phase? And that seems to be a choice in calculus, statistics, chemistry, and physics only. Does that seem correct, Mr. Edwards and Mr. Chuba?
I actually don't have an answer for that one. I'm going to write it down so I can check with the assessment office. Or I believe the last name of the person who was submitting it was at Jurgen. Maybe you can send the question to me via email and I'll work on it tomorrow when I get back to school. Because that is a very good question.
It seems to me that the information circulated by Loudoun County Public Schools made that option clear and available to our students. So, and I think the reason for that is primarily one of safety. In any situation where LCPS can offer a home testing option, they want to do that so that they're not inequitably eliminating students' opportunity to test if there is a significant concern about the student's safety in the school environment. Now, that being said, I want to reiterate something that Mr. Edwards said earlier in the presentation. We have administered over the course of this school year, beginning back in late September, the ACT and the SAT to large groups of testers 8 or 9 times. We have conducted SOL testing for the past 2 weeks for our entire junior class. And we've done that with sensible protocols in place that are not overly intrusive, that are efficient, and that have been, as far as we can tell, to our knowledge, 100% effective in preventing the spread even a single time of COVID-19 from one student to another, from one adult to a student. So we should be very good there. Could a student theoretically take their Chromebook to a private room at Cascades Library and take their exam? I think the answer to that is wherever a student has access and internet access in the privacy that they need, they can take the test there, right? Nobody's going to know quite where they are taking the test. Does that seem right?
They could do that and have all the privacy they want as long as they've got the right amount of internet.
It's a great idea. It's a really, really good idea.
And Mrs. Jurgen, and the reason the June 11th test for bio and environmental science have not been made available by Loudoun County Public Schools is because those tests are being given in the digital format to begin with in May. And so that the reason why those 4 tests are dangling out there in mid-June in Administration 3, I think goes back to that concept of wanting to accommodate any family who does not, under any circumstances, want their student yet to be potentially exposed to COVID-19 in the school environment. So biology and environmental science are available in the same format in May that they're available on June 11th. So that, I think, answers that question. A few questions came in on the Google form. Is the test open note?
No, absolutely not. Students are allowed scrap paper to work things out on, but they're not supposed to have any notes or textbooks.
Should students expect their AP teachers to have completed all material that is going to be on the exams before April 8th? Or is self-study preparation required for the content not covered by the teachers? I'll go ahead and take that one since that's more of an instructional question. Our teachers are going to cover the breadth of the curriculum to the degree that it is possible. And they certainly have well beyond April 8th to do that. They have all the way until mid-May. In fact, we've gained 2 weeks of preparation time by not choosing any testing to be done during window 1, which is traditionally the first 2 weeks of May. So most teachers will probably complete what they believe is a coverage of the curriculum necessary for the AP exam prior to the day of the test, weeks prior to the day of the test, and then spend considerable time reviewing. But that's during a typical year when they've had 5 days a week of instruction, 90-minute blocks, students in person. So I have no doubt it's been a greater challenge for us to cover the entire curriculum in our current format. But I have a lot of confidence in their ability for them to, decipher what are going to be the critical elements that students are going to need to know to be successful. We have a lot of very experienced AP teachers who are in the process of preparing your Titans for these tests. And then I think the last question I see in the Google form that we have not addressed so far is what happens with these scores? What happens with AP test scores? So Mr. Edwards, this is definitely up your alley. Do colleges see AP test scores probably really important for sophomores and juniors who are taking some of their first AP tests to know, are these results going to be considered in the college selection process? Can you take a stab at that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So the AP exams were not designed in any way, shape, or form to be used in the admissions process. Students are more than happy or more than able to self-report those scores to colleges. However, schools will only receive the official scores from the College Board with AP exams in the summer before the student enrolls in that college. So they're only made available to colleges after the student's been connected and received the housing payment and has, a schedule for classes. Because of that, we tell students that this is a high reward, low risk exam, because if you do really well on an AP exam, you earn college credit. You can earn college credit. If you do poorly, there's almost no drawback to doing poorly on an AP exam. So then again, so just to reiterate that, our sophomores and our juniors are not sending their scores to colleges or universities unless they choose to during the application process. So it plays virtually no role in college admissions for our underclassmen or for our seniors for that matter. Does that answer the question?
All right, and then we have a question about, that was, I think, spurred on by my instructional comments about, has the AP test been adjusted to accommodate this unusual instructional year? That is an amazing question, and the answer is no. The College Board has communicated to our teachers that they intend to give full-length exams that cover the enriched curriculum that they offer to students. They made a different decision a year ago under much more dire circumstances, had very little time to prepare a year ago. But this year, students are taking the equivalent of exams that have been taken for decades. So they're working hard to prepare to do well. And again, as Mr. Edwards said, these are low risk. If students haven't had adequate time or resources or circumstances under which to prepare, their best effort is all that we ask. And, their best result will be enough. And then there's a question to just ask, can you explain a little bit, just explain again the use of scrap paper and its permissibility on the test?
So students, whether they're testing at home or at the school, will be provided scrap paper. That is because generally when students are testing within a book, they can write within the book and make notes in the margins and underline and other activities like that. And that's really, really impossible to do on a keyboard or in the testing application. So the College Board is going to allow students to use scrap paper. That scrap paper won't be allowed to, if students are testing within the school, they're not going to be able to allow to take that outside of the school. But certainly if you're at home, you can use scrap paper to make notes, to do calculations, etc. Do you see, can AP tests be retaken similar to the SAT? Absolutely. You can take them every year in May if you're unhappy with the result of one year.
But they can only be taken annually, one time per year.
The administration is only one time each year. Absolutely.
So the next time they take it would be like exam. They would register for exam only, since they wouldn't be in that course again.
Maybe could be a scenario.
No, that's
where
true. They
take
could
the course
repeat
again.
the course. Yeah.
Well, Titans, we thank you for coming tonight. And we're going to transition now to our same meeting we're going to conduct in Spanish at 8 p.m. And if you have other questions, just encourage you to reach out to Mr. Chuba or Mr. Edwards. If you have instructional questions, please feel free to reach out to your Titans instructor. And we wish our students every success on these upcoming exams. Thank you so much. And many thanks again to Mrs. Comey and Aiden for hosting us. We'll ask them to help us by posting this information on the Atlas website as soon as possible. And Mr. Edwards, is there a place where you'll post this on our website as well?
You're muted, Mr. Edwards.
Absolutely. I'm happy to post this on the school counseling website or on the front page of the Dominion webpage. So that's easy to access.
We'll have that done by the end of the week, and we wish you a good night. Go Titans.